I know it's because of Santosh. I muted him. It's okay now. Can you hear me better?
Yep.
Yeah. Santosh, we have trouble on your line. Not sure why. I have muted you. Okay. I see today, Chan, you have joined as guest. Kevin, you have joined as guest. Below word, then yeah, two of you have joined as guest and guest. So it means that you won't be able to see the chat symbol. So you have to register to the Microsoft Teams. You have to follow the instruction that's in WhatsApp to register to the Microsoft Teams. Then only you will be able to ask questions in the session. Right? Chan, please make a note. Kevin, Shiva, please make a note. And who else? Chan and Kevin, Shiva. Yeah, only you both. Please make a note. Okay. That's the first point. And then the second point is team, whoever are inside the teams, if you go to the general tab, right, like I told you, we have started something called as a technology teaser. You all know, right? Every week we have a technology teaser, and last week technology teaser was really good. A lot of people participated, and then this week we have a technology teaser. I started seeing Mickey participating, and I would like really to invite you all to participate in the technology teaser. That's my second point. And then the third point is, you see here, there is a post here called Testoper GitHub access request. So I want you all to understand that we have now a Testoper community GitHub repository. Now, whatever that you see in the screen, Codathon, Common, all these things will be deleted, and we will create three repositories, that is IO track, TO track, and then beginners track. And then respectively, the coding will go inside those repository, whatever that we do in our training. Now, two things that you have to do. So the first thing is, in this, you have to reply. If you wanted to join to this Testoper community GitHub, you have to provide your GitHub ID. So here you do reply and you provide your GitHub ID, and we will add you into the Testoper community. That's the first thing. Okay. Hold on a second. Mickey, have you started recording what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's recording.
Okay, thank you very much. So the first thing that you need to do is provide your GitHub ID, and we will add you into this Testoper organization, non-profit organization, as one of the member of that organization. And then the second thing is, if you like us, right? We are a bunch of people who are Testoper community. I told you many times, we are a bunch of people came together and we wanted to help you guys, right? And likewise, when you wanted to help someone, for example, you wanted to start writing, I don't know, bunch of hundreds of programs for let's say Java, or let's say for blockchain technologies, and you wanted to create something so all others can benefit from that, then you can also propose that in this, right? So we will approve it, and then we will create a repository, and we will give you as a read write permission, and then you own that repository, and you do whatever that you wanted to do to help that particular community on your initiative, right? Testoper community on your initiative. So two things. One,
Kader, I think you are mute.
Not sure who muted me. What was the last message you heard, please?
From the last 1.5 minute, we didn't hear.
So there are two things.
Okay, so there are two things that you need to do from the GitHub point of view. First thing is, please make sure that you you give your GitHub ID so we can add you into the organization. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is, if you want to, if you have an idea that you wanted to build and for the benefit of community like us, right? Like leaders in Testoper community, we wanted to help you like that. If you wanted to build something to help others, you can request us. then we can create a repository for you, and then you can start using that repository to build whatever that you wanted to build, so others can benefit from whatever that you wanted to build, right? It could be you may decide it could be a private repository only within the Testopper community members, or you can decide I wanted to make it open for everyone to get benefit, right? But you are welcome to come to us with an idea, and we would be happy to provide you the repository so you can build whatever that you wanted to build to help the community. Remember that, right? That's the second point. So we covered GitHub, and we covered a technology teaser. And the third thing is, guys, from the last training to this training today, I have not seen a lot of Q&A going back and forth, right? So I really wanted to make this happen, right? And I am going to blame both trainers and the attendees. I have not seen trainers proactively sending some messages asking, have you done this? Have you done that? And I've also not seen attendees asking some questions about what's happening. And for example, I saw one attendee, Joy Christie, asked is that she has some problem with GitHub, but no response to them. Right. So I wanted to really stress on this. If you wanted to be successful as a trainer and as an attendee, you both have to engage yourself after and before the training proactively. Otherwise, you will not get best benefit out of that. Okay, so that's my next point. One second, make sure. Okay, the fourth point is, now if you go to general, and there is a tab here called Testopper, fill Testopper general. So I want you today, after the session is complete, please don't leave. I want you guys to spend some time to go to this location, and then it's a simple thing. It'll probably take a minute, right? 13 questions. I wanted you to answer them and provide the honest feedback, right? About whatever you are attending and things like that. Based on that, we will improve whatever that we need to do to improve. Okay, so the survey is my fourth one. Please remember this and make sure you do it once. And again, you have to be logged in to do. The last one is, before I hand it over to Hetal and Saad, if you have not registered, please go and register. This is a very big thing for us. The first time we are going virtual. We have done in-person meetups, right? But we have never done virtual meetup. And again, remember, we are not an event company. Okay, we are not experts of events, right? We are experts on technology, and we want to help, and we are helping, but we are not really experts on organizing events and doing big things and stuff like that. Whatever that we could do, we basically do it together, right? So this is our first virtual event that we are doing. And I really want every one of you, all the 33 people in this session today, to come and attend this event coming Saturday. It starts at 10 a.m. To support our initiative. If you have not registered, please register it. If you have already registered, please don't re-register it. Okay. So with that, I would leave the floor to Hetal to continue with her training. I know that Hetal and the trainers team has asked one last point to communicate. So when you are attending, just make sure that you are in mute. And if there need be, unmute and ask questions. Otherwise, always make sure that you are in mute. And then the second thing, make sure that you, by a mistake, don't switch on the video and make us all see something that you don't want us to see. All right. So just make sure that these two things you take care of. And with that, let me hand over the floor to Hetal. Hetal, all yours now.
Okay, thank you, Father. Let me share my screen first. Are you able to see the whole desktop or just the one screen?
Just the one screen, just the PowerPoint. Now we can see the desktop.
The whole desktop, right?
Yeah, but the PowerPoint is open.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, guys. Good evening, everyone. So, in the last session, we will try to cover some of the points which we couldn't finish due to some time restrictions. So, today we are going to cover data types and some other concepts. So we will start with data types. As Kader said, like we haven't got any questions. Some are the attendees, they are sending me the personal message like Joy Christie, like on LinkedIn and other places. As he recommended, we should communicate all the questions on our chat session, so we don't lose any important question asked by attendee or some important talk going on for that, right? Okay. Today, the way I would like to improve a little bit how we're going to do the today's sessions with more collaborations with attendees and understanding of concepts, theoretical versus practical. So today I'm just going to give you the highlights, high level of an explanation of each of the concepts. And I have one exercise ready, the real-time scenario, how you can implement each of the concept which I'm going to explain on the following slides. We're going to cover in a one example, and at the time we doing that exam, understanding that the problem, real problem, we will going to cover as a practical each of the concept and try to understand. At that time we will bring more questions, definitely should be more questions on that. So we will discuss that way, we will might be try to get more interact with each other. So just I'm going to give you the highlights here. We haven't covered the data, all of the data types. So today we are going to cover some of them. Still, it's not all covered. As we are going on the further sessions and exercise, we will cover the others data types as well. So the integers, floats, those are the numeric types of data types. We already discussed about that. A new thing is about the Boolean. So Boolean is the type of variables value. Either it's hold true or the false, or as a numeric, as in a conditional way, either it's a 1 or 0. 1 means is true, 0 means false. So we will going to see how we can use in practically as well with our real scenario. List data type is a kind of a data structure, you can say, or a data type which holds the collections of objects like the items. Let's say if you want to hold employees IDs or employee names or some specific object as a big collections, you can use as a list as well. We will see with the practical and the later on in exercise 2. Same way the dictionary. Dictionary is the data types which holds the key and the value. So whenever we are referring some values from the dictionary, we have to pass the key and the dictionary will return some values to us, like as a normal dictionary works as a root in our general life. Next, we were going to cover about some operators. So the Python is basically divided in this following categories of operators. And operators mainly used to perform some operations on the values and variables, such as like, let's say if you want to do the addition, multiplication, division, any kind of mathematical operations, or some maybe string related operations, we will use some particular operators to get the expected results. We will cover that in our exercise as well. So basically arithmetic operators, assignment operators, comparison operators, logical operators. Those are the basic operators. The rest 3 are the advanced levels. So we will see if we get the time, we will going to cover. Otherwise, we will more focus on the basics ones. So let's start with the arithmetic operations. As generally we know, like mathematics operations, we require this kind of operator like plus, minus, multiplication, division, modules. All those we will going to use. Let's say, for example, if you want to do 5 plus 5 and you hold those 5 and 5 value into the some variable, let's say x and y, and you want some output of additions like 5 plus 5 x and y equal to hold in a c or z something, whatever the outputs come from that additions, it will hold there. So we will cover those. We were going to use some of the operators to see how it's work. This is just a very basic, so no need to spend time on explaining these things. We will see at the when we do the exercise. Assignment operators. So these are the operators when you want to assign some values to the left side values. Let's say, for example, here I give the example as like x equal to x plus 3. But if I want to avoid repeated use of x, because I know the value of whatever the last value holded by x, I want to add some new value and assign that completely generated new value to the my original x variable, then we can, instead of using like plus x equal to x plus 3, we can simply use x plus equal to 3. That is the same, both the way same. Same way you can do equal, like plus, minus, multiplication, division, modules, everything, power of and flotation, everything you can do that. Mostly the first two operators, like arithmetic operators and the assignment operators, mostly we were going to use for the mathematical related operations. Next two types of operators, comparisons and logical operators, those are going to use mostly for the conditional programming, like conditional code flow. Let's say if and equal to's, not equal to's, greater than, less than, greater than, equal to, less than. Let's say if you want to compare some, that is what it's called the comparison operators. So let's say if you have a value x and y and you want to compare whether they are equal, whether they are not equal, whether they are greater than each other, less than each other, or maybe equal or greater or something. That kind of operator we will use in a conditional when we are discussing about the if else. We will cover this as well, how we can use it. Same the logical operator, it's also used for the logical flow programming. So like let's say if you have a certain conditions, like if you want to compare like the value of a particular variable has to be this and that, then you can perform certain tasks. So similar, like here I have given example, let's say x is less than 5 and x is less than 10, then do something. Or maybe you can say x is greater than 5 and x is less than 10, then do something like that. Same way, or either one of the value has to be either one of the condition has to be true, like either x has to be less than 5 or either x has to be less than 4 or something like that. I will use in a real example. This is just the explanation, but I will use in a real how you can use it. Not is the some extra operator you can use when you want to, let's say if the condition is not true, then it has to be performed some task. Same, let's say if you are not pass, or let's say x is not greater than 0 or something like that, then you can use not in front of your condition and it will return you the true value. Okay, so we move on to the conditions and loop. Basically in any programming you can find like if, else, those are the basic conditional flow in the any programming language. Same way in a Python we have like if, else, if and else. What the format of that condition is, like let's say if the condition 1 is satisfied, you can do the task 1. If the condition 1 is not satisfied, then you can check another condition 2 with else if, and this is else if is the short form of the else if. You can put the full form of else if as well. So let's say if the condition 2 is not satisfied, condition 2 is satisfied, then do task 2. If the 1 and 2 both are not satisfied, not coming matching our criteria, then default, as a default you can do the else condition, else statement, whatever your default task supposed to be get done if none of the condition is get matched. So we will cover in a practical as well, and at that time I will explain again the flow as well, how it's going to work. I'm just giving a highlights. Same way, there is a while loop. In a while loop, that means when you can use the while loop is when you have you want to perform certain task for certain times until you reach to the certain conditions. Let's say for example, if you want to print number 0 to 5 with using a while loop, you can just continue printing until your number goes not less than or equal to the n number. Let's say it's 5. Till that it's going to continue. While the while loop is continuing process, at the some particular requirement, you have to make some flags like breakpoint flags that call like let's say particular value when you reach to the particular value, you don't want to process anything, or either you want to break completely your while loop and come out. let's say when you go to the certain value and you find is per your expected value and you don't want to continue your while loop until you reach to the expected value, you can use the breakpoint as well. Same way we can use continue, pass. There are a lot of keywords we can use during the practical. We will see that. There is another called for loop. For loop is getting used for any kind of object you can use, either the string, list, tuple, dictionary, any kind of object you can read through each items from that list or object using the for loop. So what the for loop basically do is it's read each items from the given object, either the list or object, and perform certain tasks on each of the item. Depend on your requirement of your program or project, you have to perform that way. And over there also you can use like breakpoints if you want to come out when you reach to the certain output. If you want to come, you don't want to go through whole long list of in a for loop, you can come out with that. There are certain example you can use as an object like list, range, or some string or tuple, any kind of data structure you can use. You can use with for loop. There is in other programming language we call switch, but in Python we don't have directly to use a switch, so you can use with the dictionary. So the dictionary is the way where you have defined the key and the value. Here is I just give the quick example of switch is like the key is 0 to 6 and the value associated with key is weekdays like Sunday to Saturday. And here we can I just quickly give the example here, like when you read it, this is about the function, maybe function we are going to cover in a next week session. This is just the highlight. Def week is the function declaration where you are passing the values 4 and it will return matched value, like for the first week 4 is like Thursday, and for 7 we don't have matched key, so it will going to return. So we will see how we can really use in a practically. Okay, functions we are going to cover in next week. So let's switch back to the real scenario, how we can use it, whatever we explained so far. Everybody able to see my screen, right?
Yes, we can see
By
it.
chance? Okay, good. So I have one real scenario created for us. And we will understand first this case, this problem, and then we will try to utilize whatever we understood so far or whatever I explained so far, how we can use as a real scenario example. So I have created one dictionary, like I have let's say we have one dictionary where we have values like key value is alphabetic values like one character, L, B, Z, E, and all those things. And its relevant values is like 1, 8, U. So when we ask dictionary to return the value of E, it will return 6 for us. So that way, this is the dictionary, how we can define the dictionary. So the problem is we have given the particular string and we want to replace that string characters with respective numbers available from this dictionary. So let's say how we can do that. So first, let's say this is my input. Let's have a fun, for example, or I need $50. And the third string I have like Python is a very easy. So if I want to match this string with the dictionary values, how I can do that? Because this kind of example used in a retail kind of projects, like where they have to find the price for the product by the key values. They want to find the stock or like a product ID or model name or something. Those are the real-time scenario where you have a like dictionary or maybe the different list of object and you want to find a particular matched object and you want to manipulate that found values and to get the expected output and those kind of things. So here how we can do is when we have example, let's have a fun. we want to convert each of the letter of this string by associated value of that key. Let's say L. But here we are thinking about the case sensitivity as well, because the Python is a case sensitive. Unless and otherwise you are not forcing to convert into the specific case, it will look only exact case you're looking for. So if I'm looking for L, it won't return me 1. Normally we think, oh, it's L, it will return 1. No, because we are looking for capital L and it's not having capital L. So it won't return anything. Okay. So I just have created some pseudocode for that. So we can see how we can reach to the expected output for this particular given problem. So the condition 1 is, first we have to match the found whatever the character in the string, let's say L, the first letter in the string, we will going to do, let me just open it a little down more. So I have created the flowchart or the algorithm. So but the problem conditions are, condition 1 is if we found the match, then replace it. So whenever we found exact match, the lowercase L, then we will replace it. Let's see if we don't, second condition is if we don't match that particular letter in the dictionary, what we can do is, if we don't match, then we have to check for the other case sensitive. If it's L, but does the dictionary hold the lowercase L? If yes, we can replace it. The third condition is we are checking, is there any capital A or a lower A in my given string? If it's yes, then replace A. Make sure the @ sign is not a part of our dictionary. If you go up, we don't have the A character as a key and there is no respective value for that. So this is some exceptional condition in our problem to find out how we can do it. So when we found A, capital A or small a, we want to replace with @ sign. Here you can apply some last session's concept, whatever we understood, like lower to, like you convert string or a character from lower to upper and upper to the lower, or with one OR condition or without OR conditions, you can try it. And the fourth condition is if none of the case match, then we have to put as it is. Whatever the character we found, we have to put as it is. So here is the example. Let's have a fun. It is converted like this: 1675 h @v6 fun fun and the 1. So the algorithm says, like, whenever you have some problem or requirement given, you have to write down some algorithms. So here is the algorithm. How are we going to start? So for that, we need first empty variable, string variable called str output, where we are going to put our converted value of our inputs. So as our expected output variable. So we first of all, we have to create as empty. Once we have an empty variable like string, not like empty string variable, then the whatever our input string, we have to read through the for loop. Like as I explained in a presentation, for loop, you can read your object from your list of object or individual object as a string as well, and you can find it. And while you're getting the individual character from your string, you're checking like first condition to find the match. So what we are going to check is if the character is matched, that means equal to our match found in the dictionary, then it will replace whatever the value we found with that. Here we are going to, I'm just giving a hint how we're going to check. Here we are creating the variable. Here in the second line, we are going to use the for loop. In the third line, we are going to use the condition if. In the fourth line, we are going to use the assignment operator plus equal to for the string type object. We discuss about the mathematical, but still we can use plus equal for the string type. So we're going to use that. But let's say if the first condition is not matched, not satisfied, that means the whatever the character we are looking, it's not there. Let's say capital L is not there by default. Yes, it is not there. So first one is not going to be true. So we are checking the second condition. I'm converting my L into the lower and checking whether it match. If I find yes, then it will, or here I'm going to use or condition. Or maybe if you don't want to, for lowercase and uppercase, we need a separate operation. So we can use a separate condition as well, like let's say another condition, condition 3, for example. At this time, I would not prefer to use or. Maybe in the next condition we will check. So if we found the lower match, we will add the value that whatever the found match into there. If there is no lower available there, but if there is uppercase available there, whatever we are looking for, then we will put that found matched into the condition, third condition. In a fourth condition, we are checking if the character A, capital A is there or the lowercase a is there. Here we are going to use or operator. It's a logical operator as we discussed in our PowerPoint slide, like or operators. So we will going to use either this condition has to be satisfied or either this condition has to be satisfied. Then we will use at the rate, we will going to replace, we will going to convert that value as the at sign. So here what we are going to use is else if with or condition. You can avoid or condition as well by using 2 upper or 2 lower. That's completely fine because it's going to show us whatever we are looking for with or without or as well. The last condition, if none of the case above match, then we are going to print as it is the later, whatever our later is. Let's say if I don't find the lowercase l or uppercase l, then I have to put l as it is. So this is just the algorithm, the flow of the code, how it's going to be implemented. Let's we start with the practical and we will see. So we have a test lab ready for us. I'm just going to explain you each of the line. I already explained you my flow chart, algorithm what I have designed. But here you can anyway, that's fine. We will figure it out while we're running. So what we are going to do here is we created a dictionary object with having some key value. Here we have a key value L, replaced key is L, value is 1, capital B, small z, small e, capital Z, S, capital E, T, G, and O. So these are our key and value pairs. So we are going to give some input string like str input is let's have a fun. That is our, as per explanation in the problem, we are using this. So how are we going to use the for loop here? So the syntax of the for loop is you have to write down for. We are reading each character from this string. String is the one object type, the data type. So we are going to read each of the character from the string. L, E, T, and L, all of them. First condition is if character in alphanumeric dictionary, if that particular character is exist in this dictionary, we can use that, we can get that value of that character. The key character is the key value we are passing to that particular dictionary. So how you can get the value from the dictionaries by passing the key. So the character, what I'm getting the character from the string, which I'm going to use as my key value to find the respective value from the dictionary. If I found it, then I'm going to replace with here. Same way, if I don't found the as it is without case checking, then my next condition is going to check like whether that particular character upper, if you convert that particular character into the upper, does the dictionary hold that? If it's holding, then I'm going to get the value of that character upper, whatever is matched value in my dictionary. And let me just expand a little bit so you can see the dictionary as well. Here. So we are just taking the example as a L. So L first condition is not going to satisfy because we don't have a capital L available in our dictionary. So it's not going to be satisfied. So it will go for the next one. Now I'm going to convert L to the upper. So when you're converting L to the upper, it will check. Does it has upper? It is already upper, but we don't know, right? So we have to check both the conditions. So we are checking with upper. Do we have upper? No. Then we will go for the lower. We will convert this L into the lower and check again. Does the dictionary hold the lowercase L as a key? And does it has any value? Yes, it is. It has. So it will convert with 1. When you pass to that lower conditions to get the value of lower L, it will dictionary will return the 1. And we are going to merge. Currently string output is empty, as I told you as from our pseudocode. Like here, let me just go to the flowchart. Get empty string as output. So I had created empty string here without anything in it before we start reading the string with for loop. So here it's a plus equal to, and it will going to assign whatever the last value hold by the string output. This is called the assignment operator, as we discussed in the presentations. So for original value string output is nothing. There is empty string. So it's going to add the character, whatever the character found, whatever the value we found for lower L is 1, it's going to add into. So now when program execute this line, it's going to hold the value L. Instead of L, it's going to hold the value 1. Then once one particular condition is get satisfied, the rest condition no need to check. The program won't check the rest condition because you already satisfy one of them. That's the purpose of nested if or if else, because if it's one particular condition satisfied, no need to check for the further logic. So that is a good point. So you can divide into the else if and reach to the match with your particular criteria you needed. So now it's going to for the next E. So lowercase e. Let's see physically we have E in our dictionary. Yes, we have a E and we are going to replace with 6. So our condition, now we done with the first letter. So my for loop is going to move to the next letter in my string object, which is E. My character value now is E. So once E is there, we will checking whether it's holding. Yes, very first condition is going to be satisfied because my lowercase e is there. So I'm going to get 6. So same way, one after the other, each of the character is going to be read from the string, and you will combining, you are appending the existing string with the whatever found value. Let me explain you here a little bit more. When the time comes for a here, let's say small a. So what we are checking here is, let's say my character a is capital or a lower. Instead of that, I can replace with one particular line as well, like character dot either upper or lower. You can choose whatever you want. Let's say I'm choosing upper. Equal to a. Here, instead of using or and having two conditions checked, this is the logical operator or I use, and I'm checking with two separate conditions whether it's capital A or lower a, because no matter is a or capital A or lower a, I just want to replace with one particular character. So I, instead of having two separate check. I can forcefully convert my whatever is character, just convert forcefully to the upper, and then compare forcefully with the upper. I want to replace with add. Doesn't matter it's a lower or upper, I want to replace. So I'm forcefully converting into the upper and only checking with upper, which is going to convert my both of this A with @ sign. So it's optional. You can give a try and see how it's worked. Because here I want to explain you the OR operator. That's why I use it separately. But you can reduce your line of code and simplify your code with more readable and easiest way. And none of this is matched. Then finally it's going to print as it is whatever the found character. Let's say if I don't have edge, it's going to print as it is edge. So whatever the final output of my string is going to be print here. Let's try and we will run and see how it's work. You can see let me print the first original string as well. Here I'm doing the input and here we will do the output. You can compare like how it's replacing with the dictionary. You can see here, right? I will pause for the question answer and then we will go for the next thing. Is there any questions come up or any questions? You can unmute yourself and ask directly or whatever the way you prefer. Sat, are you able to hear me?
Yes. There aren't any questions. Could you show the code again?
Okay. From the top, let me minimize my window. Yeah.
Also, I think it would be a good idea if we show the output of each of the if conditions step by step.
Yeah, we can debug it. If we want to debug, we can debug the project. What was the questions there? What are the questions?
There aren't any questions, but I was just saying that maybe that would be a good idea if people are having trouble with this.
So each of the character we would like to print and see what is there. That's what.
Yeah, and I would suggest just do the for loop and then do one condition to and then show the output, and then we can do that to see what each if condition is doing.
Okay, let me just.
Hetal, while you're doing that, I just wanted to ping a couple of guys here. Chan, can you hear me? If yes, say hi, please. Chan. Nagendra, can you say hi to me, please?
Hi, Chan.
Okay, and push up.
Hi.
Sachin. Okay, so you four of you have not registered to the Microsoft Teams, right? Are you four of you in WhatsApp?
Actually, Kader, I am registered. Actually, I'm online. I am on Teams. Okay. The only thing is I joined with the Microsoft Edge, not with the Teams app. I think that's why it is showing, that I believe.
Okay. But even with Microsoft Web, you can open the Teams login. See, the key point here is that you have to log in and then click the link. If you don't log in and then before logging in, if you click the link, it will bring you as a guest, not as a Codathon attendee, right? So in case, I'm just repeating, Chan, I have not heard back from you. Hello, right? Chan, Nagendra, Shap, and finally Sachin. Four of you If you have still trouble and you can't figure it out, reach out to us on testoper@testoper.com or WhatsApp. We will help you to get and do things right next time. All right. And I also see here Erin Walker. Erin Walker, can you acknowledge, please? Erin Walker from Brampton Library. All right. So I don't hear from her. All right. Over to you, Hetal.
Sure. I'm utilizing time to get ready my code. So this is the way you want Sad, right? They want to see each of the conditions value, what they are returning and what the output is, right?
Yeah, that would be very helpful. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you can see step by step how it's working.
Also, I will going to print the dictionary output as well. I don't need to separately, but you can see as a whatever the last edited value to the original output.
Yes.
That is enough, I believe.
Yeah.
So let's see. And this is the final one. Okay. So what I'm doing here is to give you more better detail understanding how its work is. So when any of the condition gets satisfied, whatever the character you are passing as the input and what is my particular dictionary is returning me this value, I'm going to print each of the step while it's reading the each character, how it's getting replaced. You can see in the output window, one after the other, each character is getting replaced. So it's give you the more ideas about how the for loop is working and how it's giving you the output as expected. So let me just pull up a little more. Okay, so here is. Let's start with L. Whatever I explain you verbally, that is practically you can see here as well. So when the for loop is reading one character at a time from this given string, as we discussed in the last session, indexing is start from 0 to number of characters. So very first is L. So my first value of character is L, and what my dictionary value I'm getting back when it's matched. Definitely the first condition is not going to match, so it won't return me anything here. Then it's going to check the second condition. Does uppercase L is available in my dictionary? If it's not there, it won't satisfy my second condition. Let's go for the third one. In the third condition is checking for the lower, and yes, my dictionary has the lowercase l and its value is 1, and that's where it is going to change to the 1 here. Okay, now the second letter E. When it starts for E, it go through each of the condition wherever is going to satisfy in E case, it's going to satisfy the very first because we have a lowercase e in our dictionary. So right away we will get 16. Why we have a 2 time prints? Maybe at the end I'm printing something. That's why. Yeah. So in the next, it will go for. That's a small t. In our dictionary, we have a capital T, I believe. Yes. So we want to check with upper, character upper. In this condition, it will return me the number 7, and it's going to replace the number 7, the third character. And so on, it will read then apostrophe as the sign, the special character. It doesn't, my dictionary doesn't have, so it's going to print as it is instead of anything else. S. Next is going to look for S. If they found S, it's going to replace with 5. So this is the output of the for loop, one after the other. Each of the characters we are checking and replacing with whatever the value we found from there. And you can see as we are going to the next characters, our output string is getting increased, and final output string looks like this. Good, or need more explanation on it?
I think that's clear. If no one has questions yet, but I encourage everyone to ask questions.
Yeah, is there any question related to the conditions here? Any operator related questions out from, or I can pull up my presentation and out from the presentation if you get some idea to ask any questions about the. We didn't cover the while loop, so we will go for the while loop. So these are the arithmetic operations. This is very simple. Might be this is they have to know a little bit about. If is there any question on this? No.
No questions. But again, I'm sure people have questions. I really encourage everyone to ask.
Yeah, okay. Then I will just quickly give you the idea about the while loop, how it's work, and some of the keywords related to the while loop. Let me just save this all what I've done for a backup. And I will show you the while loop as well. Okay. Let me cover the all of this because this is I just picked the real scenario to understand, but we can go more with more example of the for loop and while loop as well. Okay, so very first thing we use the for loop with the string object. In our example, whatever we done exercise, which we have as a string input, and we are reading each character from that input string using the for loop. So each of the character from the string is going to be like I'm using the item variable name here. You can use any preferred name. Relevant name is good always. So and you are printing each of the item from this string object as a characters. Second way of using a for is this is a list type of list data type, which having numeric objects as an item in the list. This is the collection of numeric values in a list, and we are reading each of the values from the list and printing those values. So you can use a list object. This is a string. This is a list. But in some case, if you know the fixed number range, let's say if you want to print all the number from 0 to 10, you can use a range and you can pass your n number and you can do it. Let me show you one more thing with range. First, I will show you the output of each of them and then I will go for more advanced. Here, the next is here you are just continuously printing from 0 to the range is 10. It's the total number of values you are reaching to. So 0 to 9 is going to be printed there. Here you are giving the starting value of your range and the ending value of your range. And you are also giving some step how your for loop has to be incremented. Normal for loop is in this one it goes one after the other, like it's going to print 1 2 3 4 up to 9. In this you are skipping your range, your particular values in your range by 3. So the 3 6 9 10 is not going to be printed because it's not a part of it's a last range. Also you can let's do the practical. Let's print the only even number or odd number. Let's first get the output of this and then we will go for that exercise. Okay. So the very first is you are reading the Python. Separated each. I have a while loop to comment it out. Then we will go for the while loop. Okay. For loop is we are printing the Python, so it's going to print Python one after the other each character. Here you can see Python. Our next for loop is for reading the list of numbers from 10 to 15. So each of the item from the list is going to be get read. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So you can see here the output 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. The next is about a range. So from 0 to 10, this is the 10 is the ending value and starting from 0. So let me show you the output of this. Printing from 0 to 9. All the reading from 0 to up to the 10 minus 1. That's the last end where you are ending your range to calculate your for loop for one after the other. In the second for loop, you're giving your starting number, your ending number for your range, and how your range is supposed to be skipped. The skip by 3, it's called the steps. You are stepping or incrementing. By default is incrementing by 1. If you don't provide anything, by default is incrementing by 1. That's why you are getting 0 to 9 here. Here you are incrementing by 3. So you will get the output like 3, 6, and 9 here. You can see the output 3, 6, and 9. So this is increment, just increment by 3 on ranging start from 3 to 10. Let's quickly do the one example here. You guys can try if you want to, along with me. We want to print the, let's say, only odd numbers from 1 to 15.
Hetal, one question.
Yes.
What would be the output for the last one? In range 3, 10, 3?
Yeah, here is what is first value is the starting value. The second value is the end value, and the end value never come. It's end value minus 1 all the time in the range. And the third is the incremental step. How by default the for loop is increased by 1 value as a default. If you don't provide, let's say in a first one, when range 10, you are not providing any incremental. So by default is 1 after the other. So it's adding 1, 1, 1 in each. Here you are adding 3. That means it's stepping. So very first value is 3. You are starting with 3, right?
Yeah.
So the next, after skipping 3, what is the next value? That is 6.
Okay.
And then after it's 9. After 9, there is no more range because our range is end with last range value is 10. So we are not having more value. So the output is 3, 6, and 9 here.
Okay.
Clear?
Yeah.
Let's say if I'm giving range starting from 1 to 20 and I'm skipping my step skipping, let's say 4, right? So
Yeah.
what you're expecting here is you're starting from 1 and you're skipping 4 value at a time and printing only those after the next skip, like after the next step. So it's going to be 4, then plus 5, plus 4, then plus 4, then plus 4. So it's going to be skip in between. Let me show you the output as well, so it's more clear. You can see here 1, very first value is 1, plus 4 5, plus 4 9, plus 4 13, plus 4 17. And if you do plus 4 is 21, and 21 is not in our range, so it won't print and it will stop our for loop because we are finishing our range to loop through it, right?
Okay.
Good.
So
Let's do-
one more
yeah.
question. So all these functions that we are using, get or range, so these are like inbuilt functions which are already available.
Yes.
How-
Actually, yeah. That is the range is the inbuilt function like a input, print. So there are lots of inbuilt function for the maths as well. Like you can do absolute. Those we can we don't have time for to cover today. But when maybe the Shad is, or I will cover the next session, or any, like if I'm doing the next session for function, I will definitely cover the inbuilt functions. in a
Hey, Hital.
that's the schedule for us. Let's quickly give me 2 minutes. We will do the.
Hital,
Yeah.
could you just explain the importance of indentations when you're working with for loops? So that just to show that the for loop will only be executed for stuff that is indented under it.
Yes, that's we are going to discuss in this example as well.
Okay,
Let me do 10. 10 is the short ranges. Okay. So here what we're going to do, we want to only print the odd values of this. So what we are going to do, maybe I can do with the while loop as well, because we didn't cover the while loop. So maybe I can try. Did I comment it? Okay. We can do the while loop here. Let me, I have already copied. So we're going to cover while loop along with this. It's just the difference of using a for and while, but it's the way it's, sorry, I have to uncomment. Okay, so I'm starting from, let's say my value starting from 1 and I'm going for value up to 10. And let me do the incremental first. So what I'm doing here is I'm in a while loop. My while loop start with 1 and I'm keep repeating whatever I'm supposed to do in between the while loop for up to my I values goes to less than 10 or more than or equal to 10, up to, if it's my I value is less than 10, then it will continue. If it goes 10 or more, then it will come out. So I'm incrementing my I value, and here I want to, let's say, want to print only odd numbers. So I will module by 2. That this is one of the arithmetic operator, which is going to return value either a remainder 0 or 1 or whatever. If it's divided, then it's 1. If it's not divided, then it's 0. And here I want to print. Sorry, I will also explain you the continue keyword as well. Whatever I write it down after the if, it will going to continue, like it won't do anything. If it's not satisfied, then I want to print my I value. So what here is going to do is I will start my while loop with I value 1. It will check whether 1 is less than 10. If yes, then what I'm going to do is I plus equal to 1. I'm incrementing that value and checking whether it's I value mod by 2. If it's true, condition is true, then I'm not printing. That means if it's divided by 2, then I'm not printing and continuing. If it's not, then I'm printing I. That means if it's odd number, then it's going to be print. So here the indentation is like if condition is satisfied, then only it will continue. It won't go for the next line. The use of continue is when you have a particular certain condition, when you satisfy that condition, you don't want to do anything. You just want to continue for the next check. So here that's what we are doing. On other way around, you can break in a certain condition. Let's say I'm going to do one more condition. Sorry, I'm taking a time little more, but I just want to cover up what I'm supposed to cover today. Is equal to, I want to wait. So I put 2 conditions at the same time. If my modular is true, then I won't do anything of this and continue incrementing and going for the next check. If this is not true, then it will check whether I is equal to 8. If it's reached to 8, if it's not, then it will print I. Otherwise, it will break when it's reached. So I'm not even going to satisfy my condition I is less than or not. When it's reached 8, it's completely out and come out and finish my execution. So let me quickly show you what is going to be the output. Oh, what I did wrong. Indentation for this one. What is wrong, Saad, here?
1 second, I was answering questions.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
Hetal, we are running out of time.
Yeah. Just one
to
more
is
minute.
okay?
Saad is correcting my code. There is something syntax error.
I think it's probably an indentation error there.
It looks like, but I don't know where is my extra space.
If it's starting before I should
Right.
be in line,
If
right?
I think first if.
I would use tab. Just go back and just do tab instead of spaces for the if.
I use the tab.
Yeah. So now the if below is also out of the while loop.
Index. Let's see. This is the big problem in Python. Indentation is very important here.
Yes.
I'm used to do JavaScript, C# and other things, so it's mixing up my both languages here. Sometimes I forget the syntax of
the break will be on the while loop, right? Not in the if.
No, I want to break when my I is equal to 8. I want to break it. So my print indentation looks like. Let me see.
It should work now.
No. There's still something wrong. Invalid syntax 10. Where is?
So if you look at, there's a for loop indentation error that it is showing. Can you comment the above code where the for loop is?
I didn't comment it. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
This one.
Okay. What happened? Why? I'm not expecting only 8. Okay. That's the my print supposed to go. Now you can see. Yeah. So I did the other way. I'm printing the even numbers. So here, what is while doing is while I is less than 10, I have to do this bunch of job here. But while I am doing this, I put some 2 conditions there to do other restriction on the job as well. So the first restriction is if my I's module 2 is true, I don't want to do anything of this afterwards. I want to continue checking again and incrementing my. So when I reach 2 divided by 2, it won't do anything of this. It will continue incrementing my number and check again. If this is not satisfied, then only it will go here and see if my I is equal to 8. If it's not, then it will continue to printing. If it's equal to 8, then it will stop printing. So when it's reached exactly, let's say my I is 7, for example, 7 plus 1 is equal to 8. when it reach I is equal, it won't even go to check again afterwards, or it's not going to print anything. It's just going to come out from the whole execution of the while loop, because you don't need to wait to get to satisfy your condition. Normally the thumb rule is you have to satisfy the condition to come out from the loop. But when you put the breakpoint for certain conditions, you can come out anytime you want when your condition is satisfied. Same way the continue means you don't want to go further down when you are reaching to that condition. But rest you want to skip that execution and go for the next operations, like that. So that's the way it's work. While loop, you can do same thing with the for loop as well. Like you just simply replace this for n in range. Sorry, we are going. Are the guys leaving or still joining, enjoying this?
Yeah. People are leaving.
Okay, that's fine. This is the last thing. So we can do with the for loop as well, the same thing. Let's see what is the output. Same, right? So why I choose to use the while loop, because I didn't cover the while loop, so I use the while first. You can do the same thing with the for loop. You can read the range from 0 to 10, and you can you apply the same logic for breaking and continue. There is something called pass as well. If the people are still there, then let's say I'm having some more condition. If I equal to -1, I don't want to do anything. That is similar to the pass, but you won't get any error here. The pass keyword is used for, you have created some logic, but you don't want to get executed or get error of that. You can just simply do the pass, so you can continue doing your rest of the testing or code refactoring, and then come back and implement your REST logic. That's the way. Is there any questions, sir?
No, no new questions.
No new questions. Okay,
So let me see, as a layman, I understand what you're teaching, Hetal. So whether it is a for loop or while loop, if you wanted to run bunch of codes that has to repeatedly execute, then you use for loop or while loop, right? That's number one.
Not the repeatedly. The repeatedly thing we have a recursion. That recursion means repeated task you are doing.
No. I'm talking from the logic point of view,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Not from the coding terms of repeat. Okay.
Okay.
From the pure English point of view, if I wanted to do some actions, like 3 actions, A, B,
operations,
C.
Operations.
Actions or operations. You think from the English point of view, right? Simple.
Yeah.
If I wanted to do 3 actions, A, B, C, get up, eat, sleep. I wanted to do that 100 times. So I put a for loop or while loop to do 100 times based on the condition, right? So that's number one. And then the second one is, if I, when I'm doing that 100 times, at some point of time, I wanted to get out of that loop.
Yes.
Then I use break.
Yes.
And at some times, out of 3 actions, I wanted to do only 2: get up and brush my teeth, but don't eat breakfast. Then I would basically put break for that particular time, right? So out of 100 times, maybe with some condition, I might break 10 times not doing the last action. That is break.
So
right?
that is called continue. Where you don't want to do something, you can continue. You don't want to do when you get the brush teeth.
So
you don't want to do anything.
Okay, out of 100 days, I don't want to run 100 times. I want to come out after 50 days, my routine. So with some condition, I can put break, and totally I'll come out of this while loop or for loop.
Yeah, that is called break. Yeah.
Okay. But pass, logically, I did not understand as a layman.
Pass is just like, okay, this pass means like when you have a certain code, you write the condition. Let's say you are expecting to do something here. When your I value is -1, for example, you want to do something here, but you haven't decided your logic, what you want to do.
Okay. Got it.
Then rather, you just design the criteria, but you don't know what you're going to do with this criteria. You don't have ready your logic or code ready to implement. You just put the pass. Once your code is ready, you can implement there, and you can put over there and get tested that. So
Awesome.
pass